from you. How I'd love to read one sweet letter from you. You know that you left me so worried and blue. I'll always keep singing, oh, what will I do? No, it's not fair, and you don't care for me, dearly. Drop me a line if you just sign yours sincerely. You know that I'm praying for night and day through, just hoping I'll get one sweet letter from you.
Welcome to our friends and guests from around the state and the country, representatives from Michigan City and Angola, and a special welcome to our Indiana Lieutenant Governor, Suzanne Crouch. We are so happy to have you all here with us today. My name is Jill Miles, and I'm the founding board member of Rediscover Downtown Peru, which is our local Main Street organization. Approximately 18 months ago, Miami County, Indiana Worth Remembering came to our board with an amazing idea for a project. It celebrated the Indiana Women's Suffrage Centennial. Thankfully, they had the vision to see how our community's local history regarding the suffrage movement was a golden opportunity to celebrate one of the founders of the National League of Women Voters, our very own Marie Stuart Edwards. Little did we know, receiving the grant from Indiana Humanities and the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Development would bring us to this historical unveiling that will last for generations to come. On behalf of Rediscover Downtown Peru, I would like to thank Miami County Worth Remembering, the 19th Star Chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, Rediscover Downtown Peru, the Peru Public Library, the City of Peru, Indiana Humanities, and the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Development, Peru City Council, Mayor Hewitt, the Miami County Museum, artist Cindy Billingsley, Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, and all of the many volunteers and supporters who made this project possible. Here's to celebrating the women of our state and the impact women have had on Indiana's landscape and the women's right to vote. Thank you.
Not so much always about her fundraising ability. So I just had a couple points of fact that I wanted to share with you. One is in 1920, she raised almost $1 million in today's dollars at the Cleveland Conference or Cleveland Convention in 1920. And then again, she was so successful at that she came back and was the chairwoman for the 10th memorial of the founding of the League of Women Voters. And in that role, she raised almost $4 million in today's standards. And that was at the onset of the Great Depression. So that is amazing. and just another quality that speaks to the connection that she had to be able to get things done. Now, I told you we have $15,000 left to collect to finish this project out, and I have no doubt that we are going to do it, and I'm going to tell you why. I have a closer. So if you are familiar with the original kind of video about the grant that started this whole thing out, Regine Brindle called Marie the closer. And I have a closer too. And her name is Palmer Wright. And she is a closer because she's interested in this project. She's 7 years old. She has a lemonade stand that she is going to donate all the proceeds to the middle of September. And I want to tell you what was on her sign that she made, the poster that she made for her lemonade stand. And it was support local, great cause, and girls rock. So I can't end my presentation with really any better words than that. So Marie, the torch has been passed, and now we all just need to keep doing the work. So thank you very much.
And I am delighted to be here today to celebrate Marie Stuart Edwards. Edwards was described by other suffragists as untiring, enthusiastic, and buoyant. Marie Edwards was state president of the Women's Franchise League in 1917 and 1918. And at first she didn't want the job. There were two major reasons for this. First of all, she admired the president at the time, Dr. Amelia Keller, and she was afraid that Keller wanted to continue the position and she didn't want to take it from her. The other reason she was reluctant is that she wanted to stay in Peru, and she wasn't sure that the women of the state would be happy that the Franchise League was run out of Peru. It took many, many suffragists to convince her to take the role. And probably the one that was most influential was Grace Julian Clark, who was the most well-known suffragist across the state. They were all convinced that Marie Edwards was the right person at the right place at the right time to take the job. And so she did take it. She came up with what she called a political system that started with a block chairwoman, and then a precinct chairwoman, and then a ward chairwoman, and you reported up the chain until you got to the district chairwoman. And this is how Edwards explained her plan. She said, no league can work by itself and get anywhere. What each league does or does not do affects vitally the other leagues in the state and the state campaign. So we must each feel a part of the whole, closely related and interdependent. And that is a hallmark of Marie Edwards' work. Coordination, cooperation, everyone working together, being on the same page for this great goal.
In 1918, tens of thousands of women across the state joined the Women's Franchise League and signed petitions in favor of the federal amendment. Remember that Marie Edwards did this while she was also helping to work with her family's chair factory. She was caring for her son. We're in the midst of a flu pandemic, and the Women's Franchise League had adopted war work as one of their missions as well. Knitting socks for soldiers who were in World War I, working in factories, driving state officials and military officials around the state. They said, well, we want the vote, but we have to do both. I can't imagine the exhaustion. Untiring is an understatement, I think. When Indiana legislators finally met to ratify the 19th Amendment on January 16, 1920, with only 3 votes against, Edwards, even though she was no longer the Franchise League president at that point, sat with the Speaker in the House and with the Lieutenant Governor in the Senate as both houses passed the 19th Amendment. She and several other suffragists were invited by Governor Goodrich to watch him sign the ratification of the 19th Amendment, and she was one of the people given a pen to commemorate that. Marie Edwards was also well known at the national level. She stepped down from the Women's Franchise League to work with the National American Woman Suffrage Association as it pushed the Susan B. Anthony through that final work. The National American Woman Suffrage Association then transformed itself into that very important organization that we still have today, the League of Women Voters. That's where that comes from. And even though she was not well known at the national level, they had enough confidence in her ability that she was named the first treasurer of the national office of the League of Women Voters, and also one of the vice presidents. So she came in, she did amazing work, and was recognized at the national level for it. My final comment for today, Marie Edwards was typical of all Hoosier suffragists in one important way. She knew that the vote was the key to solving problems, from guaranteeing pure food and milk, to eradicating child labor in the state, to improving working conditions for everyone, to creating our state parks, to dealing with the sale of alcoholic beverages, to preventing another world war, and dealing with a host of other issues. For most suffragists, the vote was a means to many ends, and they, and Marie Edwards, were fearless in their pursuit of it.
I wanted to let you know that we're delighted to be asked to be back home again in Indiana, and definitely thank the governor, constituents, unfortunate people who don't live in Indiana who've come here today, and just to talk a little bit, maybe a couple of things about my grandmother. To us, she was known as Mom, and there couldn't be a more doting grandmother. The first thing I wanted to mention was her ability to organize. She could organize anything. And when we came here, we were here for a weekend or maybe a week. We would do more here under her guidance than we would at home in 6 months. So she was pretty energetic. I got a book from Regine last night, and it's very educational. We really didn't know that much about our grandparents, and there are a couple of family trees in here, and you can kind of trace down the lineage from colonial times, and I noticed that at the very bottom, my brother and I have been lovingly represented as 2 sons. The other thing I wanted to mention was, if those of you who have fans, if you'll look at the big picture of my grandmother in the middle, her eyes they're kind of sneaky. She had considerable political acumen, and it was this, I think there was definitely an element of sneaking in her ability to get things done locally and nationally. And the example I'm going to give is that when my mother first seriously met my father, she met him in passing out east once. It was at a party in Lake Maxinkuckee that my grandparents were having to announce the engagement of my father to a different woman. Now, my grandmother was not crazy about this intended marriage, and so knowing that this poor lady was allergic to everything in sight, she filled the house with goldenrods, something. The poor woman was totally incapacitated for the entire weekend. My mom got to spend some time with my dad, and the rest is history. So never underestimate the power of energy or sneakiness. And my brother has a few words to say.
So as the younger brother, I'm going second, because this way my older brother, who I have to tell you is shorter by 3/4 of an inch, that's very important, so he says. This way he can't correct anything I say. So Marie Stuart Edwards, aka grandmother, aka mom, never quite got used to that one, was a formidable person. A proud lady, a woman to be reckoned with, and sometimes simply a pushover as a granny. During my lifetime, she could most often be found at her command post just inside the front door of 50 North Hood Street. She was sadly crippled by arthritis all of my life, and her physical world centered on the chair just to the left of the front door. From this position, she could look left and see the living room and porch beyond. Straight ahead, she commanded views of the stairway and the door to my grandfather's office, and to the right, she surveyed the dining room. Absolutely nothing got past her. From this post, she invited, or perhaps we should say as a command performance, that my brother and I would join her in games of Old Maid or famous authors. Card games which we were hopeless at, but she was an absolute card shark. She was also a softie. My dad, our dad, Richard Edwards III, was her only child, and she would absolutely gush when he arrived for a visit to Peru. When Stuart and I ran in, well, that gushing granny turned to a cheek-pinching, totally passion-filled Grammy. How could she spoil us this visit? What had she planned? There was always something, as Stuart alluded to. And I am certain, and remember, he can't correct me on this, I am certain that one time there was even a pony in the stall at the back of the barn at 50 North Hood Street, and we rode it all over the yard there. Another bit of family lore, as I recall it, during a visit to the World's Fair in St. Louis in 1904, and this would be shortly before she and my grandfather were married, she went to a fortune teller on the Midway. There were two predictions. First, that she would have 4 children, but really only one. She had 3 miscarriages and then gave birth to my father. And second, that her voice would move many people. Well, Marie, with her normal energy, went forth and was turned away by a seemingly endless series of well-known vocal coaches because she absolutely could not carry a tune. But later, she became known as the woman we celebrate here today, an ardent and most vocal advocate for the women's right to vote. And she had numerous speaking tours across the country. Our dad told us that she was often the only woman in the smoke-filled rooms where Indiana politics played out. She was not shy about expressing her opinions or seeing that they were carried out. Later, she served on the state parole board, and our dad also told us that she never met a potential parolee that she didn't like. She also adored this sickeningly sweet maple sugar candy. And to this day, it's something that I absolutely cannot stand. And although today is Marie's day, I come here as her grandson, as a man, as a feminist. I would also like to honor my grandfather and to rephrase an old adage, behind every great woman, there is a great man. I only just learned that they met at Lake Maxinkuckee as pre-teens. Something apparently clicked, and a dozen years later, they entered a marriage that would last for over 65 years. He stood behind her, often literally during her political adventures, but also freely granted her great freedom at a time when that was not the norm. From all I can tell, the pair of them were true Hoosiers. Their families came to Indiana from Massachusetts and Connecticut in the early 1800s. They went east to college, he to Harvard and she to Smith, where she was reportedly the first woman from Lafayette to attend Smith College. And although my grandfather rarely spoke of Harvard, he often recalled his studies in agriculture at Purdue. He said he learned things in Lafayette that he could actually use. During my lifetime, I recall them only leaving the state twice. once to babysit Stuart and me in Illinois circa 1960. This adventure ended badly, and babysitting was clearly not their thing. The second trip was to visit us after we moved to Iowa. And I remember my grandfather attempting to give me a driving lesson in what he referred to as his baby Buick. And during that time, he was completely disinterested in my driving, which he actually should have been paying attention to, but instead was far more anxious about the goings-on at the farm back here in Peru. And here I'd like to also give a shout out to the Vance sisters, who I believe are here in the front row. Their dad, Keith Vance, ran the farms with and for my grandfather. Both my grandparents had the deepest of affections for Keith and his family. I'd also like to acknowledge Jessie Dulce Radcliffe, if any of her family is here. I don't know, I'm not aware of that. But she was a wonderful woman who cared for my grandparents during many of their later years. She also listened to every one of my grandmother's stories and recorded some of them. In closing, I want to thank you for honoring my grandmother and her achievements with this very thoughtful statue that I haven't yet seen, but I've seen pictures of it, by Cindy Billingsley. And finally, I have to tell you, though, I can't imagine the grandmother I knew commanding, proud, and wheelchair-bound on a bicycle. But Marie did everything else she put her mind to, so I wouldn't put it past her. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, I'm Kira Amstutz. I'm president of an organization called Indiana Humanities. We are a statewide nonprofit, and we provided some financial support for the project and worked very closely with our next guest, the Lieutenant Governor, and our friends at OCRA, the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, to start the process that this sculpture is part of. I just have a few quick thank yous today because, again, it's my honor to be able to introduce you to our Lieutenant Governor to wrap up the program and finally get to the unveiling of the sculpture, which I know we are all very excited about. So just a couple of quick things. First of all, now that we've gotten to know a lot more about Marie in this process, it is clear where her spunk, her sneakiness, her inspiration, and her collaborative spirit came from. This community is extraordinary. So please give yourselves a round of applause. This is a wonderful community, and I think you are very representative of the woman we honor today. So the project that brought us here together was a competitive grant. So for those of you who have not been following along, I think most of you have, this was a competitive process. You were competing against communities all around the state to help tell some untold stories of women's history for the centennial year of the women's right to vote. And we were thrilled that along with Angola and Michigan City, Peru was selected for this honor. And again, as we look at what you've done, not only with this tremendous pocket park, with 1,000 different programs, and now this wild fundraising that continues to go on, I am sad that I may miss this lemonade stand because it sounds like you're gonna slide into home on that one. But again, just to see everything that has come into this project, it has exceeded our expectations, and I think our friends at OCRA would agree. Just two quick other words of thanks. I'd like to point out a couple of colleagues of mine who are here today. George Hanlon, who's our Director of Grants. If you're interested in learning more about Indiana Humanities and the work that we do and the other grants that we offer, I encourage you to reach out to me and to George because we're happy to help you with that. And Tom Strite, who is here with us. And finally, to a couple of folks who aren't here today, but who are very, very much a part of the shaping of this project, Jackie Swihart, who used to be with OCRA, and Leah Namias from our team. So again, thank you to those women who were part of the inspiration. And now it is my honor to turn it over to our tireless Lieutenant Governor, who is constantly crisscrossing the state, finding ways to uplift communities, uplift main streets. Note she's wearing signature sneakers today, and I think that also helps her as she's continuing to track and support and uplift all of us. So again, Please help me welcome Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, and again, thank you for having me here today.
I told Kira I hadn't seen her, and she said, I know I'm sneaky. I wonder if she's related. It's such an honor to be here and to serve as the 52nd Lieutenant Governor of Indiana and a partner to Governor Holcomb. And so much has been said about Marie Stuart Edwards. But let me share this with you. We here in this crowd are able to participate in the democratic process, all of us, because of the efforts of Marie Stuart Edwards. And not only are we able to participate in the democratic process by voting, but we also are able to run for office. And you all here in Peru have a female city council president. Here in Miami County, you've elected the first female commissioner. And I stand before you as a female lieutenant governor in Indiana. And so we have Marie Stuart Edwards and all that she did and all that she stood for to thank for our ability to stand here as equals. And to me, this statue, while it is a statue of Marie Stuart Edwards, it really is a statue that represents commitment, it represents dedication, compassion, but it represents equality. It represents empowering people so that all people can share in the power. And that is what we celebrate today. Women represent 52% of the voting public. And while we do, at the state level, 4 of our 6 state offices are female, General Assemblies all over the country represent only about 27% female members. And in Indiana, it's more like 24%. So we need more women to participate in the political process because our elected assemblies should represent the population as a whole. So it's such an honor to be here to commemorate and to honor the efforts of Marie Stuart Edwards, but to represent someone who did what was right, not what was popular, but what was right, and was able to stand up in the face of adversity and carry through on her commitment to equality for women, not just in the state of Indiana, but in the United States of America. And so let's celebrate Marie Stuart Edwards and unveil the statue. Thank you.
I'm the artist, the sculptor, Cindy Billingsley. So I just wanted to thank everybody. I was inspired by Marie and all that she did. Like one person could make so much difference. And I like that we did her as a younger girl with a bicycle because it shows the new generations how much you can do, just one person and one idea.
You ready?